Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? The Saints' purge, the annual purge, began today. Marcus Maye has restructured his contract to help the Saints save some money. You know, they got about $55 million in cap space they got to clear so they can be within cap compliance and then some to sign their draft picks and sign free agents. Terrell's got a great piece up right now at ESPN.com detailing exactly how they're going to do all of this, and she's good enough to join us here for a couple of minutes. Kat, thanks for the time as always. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. How proficient are you at this now, considering like you've got to do this number crunch every year?
I feel like every year I forget how to do it, and then I have to like reteach myself.
Okay.
It's really not that hard, but you always second guess that you're doing it wrong. But the funny thing is now, I've done it for so long that a lot of other reporters that cover the NFL like call me and ask me how to do it because their teams do it.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's very funny.
All right. So give us an example. So today, Marcus Maye, right? They redid it. Explain how they did this with Marcus Maye today.
Well, that one is a little more complicated, but not that much. So with Marcus Maye, what they did is they already had a roster bonus built into his contract this year. So the difference between a roster bonus and a signing bonus, when you give a player a signing bonus, you give them the money, but it's on the books spread out over 5 years. So that's how the Saints have all these players with low first-year cap hits. A roster bonus, say a player was due $10 million in 2023. That entire figure would hit the cap in 2023. So they do this to put the roster bonus in, and then they convert it to a signing bonus. Then they spread it out. So with Marcus Maye, he had I think a $6 million roster bonus, and he already had almost all the way down to the vet minimum on his base salary. So they took the roster bonus, added another void year through 2027, spread that out over 5 years, and then saved like $300,000 by taking his base salary to the veteran minimum. I don't really even know why they bothered with that, but I guess you have to squeeze every single piece of money you can. I swear to God, it's like they look in the couch cushions when you get to about October. I don't know if anyone remembers last mid-season at some point, they restructured Deontay Hardy's contract, and now Deontay Hardy will probably not be on the team, so now they're going to have to account for him. But hey, when you got to get through the season, you start looking anywhere you can to find money.
I'm looking at Marcus Maye right now, so he will have salary on the books against the Saints cap through 2027, even though technically he's really only under contract for 2 more seasons, which is Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, but that's pretty typical now. So they do these things called void years. So it basically is the same as a normal year when you put it into a contract. In terms of you can use it to spread the signing bonus out, and that's why they do that. The downside is that when you do void years and their contract automatically voids, it's like they've been cut. So then all the years that you spread the signing bonus out that the player isn't on the roster basically comes into your wallet all at the same time. So if he ends up leaving after the 2024 season, they still have to account for $6 million in that remaining signing bonus, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Go read the piece at ESPN.com. Kat lays out how they'll restructure Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, Tyrann Mathieu, like a lot of those deals that they can do to find cap savings. I think the bigger question that people have is what players aren't going to be back as a result of cap savings. Let's start with the more significant ones. Guys like Andrus Peat, like Michael Thomas, like Jameis Winston. Why did these lay out the way they will?
Andres Pete, I'll start with him because I feel like people want to hear the cuts rather than the math over the radio because I feel like it's hard for me to explain the math
of course
when people can't see it. But hopefully they understood what I was saying. But Andres Pete is one where it's definitely not a given either way. I feel like every year Saints fans want to cut Andres Pete because of the injuries and everything. But he does have a very high cap number, and eventually the Saints are going to go looking for someone cheaper. So he's going to count $18 million against the cap this year. Basically, what they could do is, if they did cut him, they could say he's a post-June first cut. So they could cut him, when the new league year starts. But they basically, what it does is you only have to account for the remaining part of the signing bonus. You only have to account for 2023 signing bonus portion. So that's $6 million versus $18 million or whatever. So it saves a lot of money against the cap. The downside is you have to carry their base salary until June 2nd. It's as if you waited until June 2nd to cut them. So they could save a lot of money by cutting Andres Pete. However, the two post-June first cuts, if this happens, will probably be Jameis Winston and Michael Thomas. Winston, I say that because, they have passed over this guy 3 or 4 times now. It just makes me wonder, how many times he's just going to let that happen. And the team understands that, I think, and they might, maybe mutually they'll decide that they need to part ways. But it's clear every year they try to find someone they think is better at quarterback, and they don't think he's the guy. So that is shown with the pursuit of Deshaun Watson and Derek Carr. So I wouldn't be surprised if Winston is not on the roster next year or this year. And then the other huge one is Michael Thomas. They restructured his contract in a way that makes it seem like he's gone. It even says in the contract notes I have on ESPN's roster management system that it was done with the intention of releasing him on the first day of the new league year. But, anything can happen. So who knows if they just decide, last minute that they're actually keeping him on after all. I don't know how that would work. I don't know why they would go through everything to make it look like they're cutting him and then change their mind. But those are the 3 guys that I would keep an eye on. I mean, I guess maybe a very outside chance they would cut Cam Jordan because of his age and cap number, but they have no one behind him. Yeah. So that would surprise me a little bit.
She's on Twitter at @cat_Terrell. Read her stuff over at ESPN.com. So I think you're right. Doing the math over the radio is tough. But I think there's 2 other
a lot of numbers.
It is, of course. But there's 2, I think, really big questions that maybe loom that the average fan will want to know. Number 1 is, will the Saints have enough money to be able to spend in free agency, to either re-sign their players or to go pursue players in free agency they'd like to add?
To an extent, I think they will. It's not as bad as a couple years ago when they were $100 million over the cap, which even now sounds crazy. And they really didn't sign anyone in free agency that year. I think Nick Vannett, who ended up getting cut this year, and then Tano, and then I think the fullback. That was the only people they could afford. And so that was bad. They can free up the money. Obviously, they think they can, or else they wouldn't have tried to trade for Derek Carr. With Carr, what they would have done is his salary would have become guaranteed today, and they would have restructured it so he only counted. I've already forgotten because I've mentally moved on from them trading for Carr and maybe signing him instead. Right. But it would have been less than $10 million instead of $30 million. But clearly, they're thinking that we can make it work, and Kai Harvey always makes it work. So they'll have some money, and they'll clearly try to get a quarterback in some way. But, the problem is they've restructured so many contracts that actually cutting players does not free up a lot of money. They have to restructure all of them again and hope yet again that the salary cap is going to take a big leap again next year.
Kat, so one more. So they'll have money to spend. We'll see how much. The other big question is, how do they get out of this cycle?
Well, they stopped going after players like Derek Carr, for one. Yeah. I think that their hope is that the salary cap jumps so much that eventually they will be able to cut some of these players that they've been doing this for years, and they can absorb the cap hit. You know, the Falcons literally did it last year with Matt Ryan. I know everyone, you know, the Falcons, so everyone was laughing at what they were doing. They cut Matt Ryan. They incurred this massive amount of dead money. They weren't even, no one thought they were going to be competitive, and they actually were more competitive than people thought, and now they have a ton of cap space. So, you know, it can be done. They just need to get to a point, I guess, with the salary cap expanding and maybe the way they restructure these contracts, that they'll be able to take the hit. I mean, the problem is that a quarterback costs so much money. That was why they got into this mess, because they needed to pay Drew Brees, and they never found a quarterback in the draft. So if they can find their guy in the draft and get him on a rookie contract, that'll change everything. But if they keep having to go out in free agency and you know, pay quarterbacks Drew Brees money, that's going to be a little tougher.
So draft a quarterback.
Draft a good quarterback. That's the key. They have not been great at that lately. Just imagine if they'd gotten Patrick Mahomes in 2017. I know, I'm sure people love it when I say that. But, you know, it is crazy to think. It would have changed everything.
The entire outlook of the franchise would be different. There's no question. And honestly, Kat, you said they haven't drafted a good quarterback lately. I mean, they haven't drafted a good quarterback literally since Archie Manning. I mean,
they haven't taken a first-round quarterback either since then.
I know. It's astonishing to think, but it also explains why the Saints were abysmal for 4 decades. But let's see if they can find something somewhere, some way. Kat Terrell, ESPN.com. On Twitter at @Kat_Terrell. Y'all go give her a follow on Twitter. Read her stuff. We appreciate it, Kat. Thanks so much for the time, as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and hopefully I explained the salary cap to some beginners that maybe helped them out a little bit.
Well, the better piece of advice is go read the piece at ESPN.com, because you lay it all out there. So, like, it's very easily explained there, so go read the piece at ESPN.com. Thanks, Kat.
I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.